Hi, everyone, and welcome to this week's special edition of our live webinar series, proudly presented by ImmigrationQuestion.com, your trusted source for the latest immigration updates, expert legal insight, and live conversations with licensed attorneys. My name is Anasia Mukherjee, and I will be your host for today's special edition, the Student Visa Edition. As many of you know, there has been a lot of buzz recently surrounding the F1 student visa, from processing backlogs and increased scrutiny at US embassies to new policy interpretations and travel related concerns. Whether you're a prospective student, a parent, an educational consultant, or simply seeking clarity, you're in the right place. Today, we're diving into the current realities of the F1 visa process, what's changing, what remains constant, what you need to do to position yourself for success in exploring powerful visa categories like the EB1 for high achievers. To guide us in this process today, we're joined by attorney Nate Hanet. Attorney Hanet is an immigration intake attorney at Gahey and Associates out of New York City. He works every day to help people with a variety of immigration issues to ensure they get the services they need. Attorney Hanet previously worked as a criminal defense attorney, public defender, and prosecutor at the felony level of in the state of Louisiana. He's graduated from the Paul M. Herbert Law Center at Louisiana State University and is a Juris Doctorate in Comparative Law. We welcome you, Attorney Hanet.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Thank y'all for having me.
Thank you. Before we dive in, just a quick reminder, Immigration Question is a platform that connects users to immigration attorneys. We are not a law firm. All attorney services are provided independently by professionals registered to our network. We are also joined today by Attorney Sonu Lal. It's great to see you again, Attorney Lal. He is an
Thanks for having me again.
Thank you. Just for insight, Attorney Sonulal is an experienced business immigration attorney focused on helping employers secure work visas and green cards for skilled professionals. He handles H-1B, L-1, E-2, O, and EB cases across industries like tech, finance, and hospitality. A graduate of Cardozo School of Law, Attorney Lal is licensed in New York and a member of the American Immigration Lawyers Association, also known as AILA. Now let's get started with the questions. Attorney Lal, let's begin with a big one. For students on F1 visas, what are the most important legal responsibilities they need to be aware of to avoid falling out of status?
So, in the light of what's been happening in the country in past couple of weeks, I normally see two kind of issues where people fall out of their status, particularly their F1 student status. Number one, after COVID, a lot of schools offered online classes, and there are no in-person classes. So, as a consequence of that, many people either participate in such classes or do not know that they have to maintain certain credits per semester to maintain their F1 status. If they are not maintaining the minimum level of credits, then the DSO can deactivate their service status, saying that you are not maintaining proper F1 status. That's the most common reason I see in my practice where people fall out of their status, and they have very limited option at that time. But people who unfortunately do fall into such circumstances, what they can do is they can reach out to an immigration attorney. Immigration attorney can look into it and provide some kind of solution. Normally, in most cases, what they can do is they can file what is called reinstatement of F1 status, meaning they will retake the admission or retake the required classes. The DSO of that school will issue new I-20 with an annotation saying that this is for reinstatement. The student then will have to submit that new I-20 with USCIS. There's a procedure for that. You have to do it either online or normally with a hard copy form 539. You submit it with USCIS, and then USCIS will consider your reinstatement request. So that's one reason why many F1 students may or generally do fall out of status. Other reason which recently happened with so many students across the country if they have any kind of law enforcement interaction, meaning if they were arrested for any kind of for offense, maybe DUI or driving without a license, etc., etc. In such cases, in the past, what normally had happened if you were ever arrested for DUI and you were on F1 status, then the Department of State typically will send you an email saying that your F1 visa has been revoked. And
Mhm.
normally in such cases, the strategy for reinstatement doesn't work, unfortunately, in many cases, depending upon the charge, a particular case. So in such cases, you will have to leave the country and then reapply for your F1 visa, come back. That's one option. But recently, what had happened is the government ran some kind of background check for F1 students across the country. And whoever had any kind of law enforcement interaction, meaning if they were ever arrested, their
Mhm.
visas were revoked. And then after that, many students, and then many of those students, the cases were already dismissed. Those students filed lawsuits in the court. After that, ICE starting reactivating their student status. So that's how what happened in recently. But as I said, if somebody falls out of the status, reinstatement is one option. Leaving the country, apply for F1 student visa again, come back is another option.
Okay. Thank you, Attorney Lab. Thank you for clarifying that. Attorney Hanet, now let's talk about long-term goals. Many students want to stay in the US permanently. Are there any creative or lesser known ways for students to transition to a green card?
Of course there are. Obviously there are your more mainstream ways, your H-1B visa. Also if you are, in a relationship with a green card holder or a U.S. citizen, getting green card by marriage. Those are very, very known ways, standard ways. That's actually how my father got to this country. My father married my mother, and that's how he did it. So that's one of the main ways, but these are very known ways, right? Not a lot of people know about, EB2 visas, right? So it's usually a very, very difficult visa to get. But if you qualify for it and if you prepare yourself in your studies, you can set yourself up for success this way, right? Set yourself up for long-term success to stay in the United States. Usually, one of the EB2 visas I want to talk about is the EB2 with the national interest waiver, right? So that's for advanced degree holders or individuals with exceptional ability, but you really need to demonstrate that your work is in the national interest, that it has substantial merit and national importance as well, and that you're well positioned to advance the endeavor, right? So this means that while you're on your visa, your F1 visa, go to undergraduate school, go to graduate school. Even after that, if you really want to stay and you really plan on staying long term, you want to look for one of these creative paths, and you're an academic, um, you know, go apply for a PhD, try to get a PhD in something very specialized, like something like a PhD student in AI, right, or climate science would be a good candidate for an EB2 with a national interest waiver, right? So that would be one example of a way that you could do that, and that's a way that you can apply without requiring an employer, right? That's a way to get into the country without basically without having a sponsor, which normally you do require. Those are generally speaking, without a sponsor, it's very difficult to get in the United States, especially with the way the current administration is. So that going and setting yourself up for success that way, studying hard and continuing your studies, pursuing that. That's one way that you can continue to stay in the United States. Is to continue your studies and to pursue an EB2 waiver with national interest, or an EB2 visa with national interest waiver. There are some other ways. If you come from a particularly wealthy family, or if you have business interests, you can go for what's called an EB5 investor visa. This really does require that you have a very vast amount of money. Like we're talking 800,000 to $1 million plus, right?
Mhm.
Um, and that's in order to, they want to see that because they want to see that you are going to create 10 full-time jobs in the United States, right? It's not really common for students, but if you have family that is backing you, which a lot of people on F1 visas do, you have to have you have to have financial aid. That might be a way that you could get into the country if you come from that kind of wealth. I know that's not for everyone, but that is a way if you have the means, right? So those are a couple sort of less thought about ways. There's other ways. If you work in the clergy, if you're a member of a church, if you are not a member, but if you are a minister of a church, you can apply for an EB4 visa. An EB4. That would be a way that you can get in the country like that. There sometimes they do have some options if you choose to go into the military for military service. And then also, sometimes they'll give out visas for startups. And if you are, if you are into entrepreneurship, but really the best way for someone who's on an F1 visa, I would think, a student who's trying to find a creative path to stay in the United States would be to go to that EB2 with the national interest waiver. That would mean, setting yourself up early for success. So going to school, going to undergraduate school, graduate school, going for a PhD, and really specializing in something and showing that this is something that's very valuable to the government, to the United States. That's going to be the way that you can stay in the country.
All right. Thank you, Attorney Hanet. Attorney Lal, I know Attorney Hanet touched upon the EB1. It seems like it's an elite option. Could you break down the EB1 visa and how it could benefit high achieving students?
So this is how EB1 works. You have to prove to US immigration that you have extraordinary ability in your field and you are one of the top 1% in your field. The field can be anything. If you are in STEM field, that's great. If you're in arts, that's fine too. If you're in sports, that's fine too. All you have to prove is that you have extraordinary ability. I just touch upon one case. Particularly in my practice, I file a lot of cases based in STEM fields. So I'll just take one case. Let's say you are in software engineering, and maybe you have worked on and currently working on some AI models, and you have a probably master's degree, a couple of years of work experience. Then maybe you can build your profile further to be able to file your EB1 application. Now, how do you qualify for EB1? There are two ways to do it. Number one, if you have received some kind of major award. Let's say you're in STEM field, you win some kind of big award. For example, you win a Nobel Prize in Science. Or if you are in arts field such as movie, etc., you win an Emmy award or Oscars. But practically speaking, not everybody is going to get such kind of big awards. So what US immigration does is allows an alternative way. It gives you 10 factors. Out of those 10 factors, if you can fulfill at least 3, then you can probably achieve for your EB1A goals. Now, I'll just touch upon a few of those factors. So if you have written some kind of article which got published in a major journal in your field, let's say you are in a science field, and the article that you wrote got published in a very major journal, you can fulfill one factor there. Second is if you have been getting higher salary as compared to your peers in the field, and then you can provide your pay stubs, W2 or tax return to fulfill that factor. So there you fulfill second factor. Or if you have achieved some kind of lesser known award, not a Nobel Prize, but a lesser known, a regional award, etc. And you fulfill at least 3 factors. There are a couple of more factors. Similarly, what you have to do is you have to achieve at least 3 factors. And when we filed any kind of EB1A cases, we at least try to aim 5 or 6 factors. And even if USCIS rejects 1 or 2 factors, the candidate can still fulfill 3 factors. That's how we file our EB1A cases.
Thank you, Attorney Lau, for that. Attorney Hanet, a lot of students are anxious right now between visa restrictions, delayed processing times, and policy changes. There's a lot of uncertainty. What are some of the current problems students are facing, and what can they do to protect themselves?
Well, I think I think the biggest contributing factor to the current problems is the current climate, right? The administration is making it very hard. And on top of that, there's other issues as well, right? There's for H-1B visas, there's a cap in a lottery. They're already oversubscribed, by a very large amount, and even then, there's no guarantee that you get it even after OPT. But then you still have to wait for the lottery system if you don't have a cap exempt employer. And then making sure that you have a cap exempt employer is difficult to do. It's difficult to find sometimes. Also, UCIS has been having a lot of processing delays as well. EADs and OPT approval can take anywhere between 3 and 5 months, sometimes more than that. And there's that kind of puts you at risk for unemployment after graduation. So that then you see a lot of people get stuck in this kind of limbo. I see that a lot in intake. We get a lot of calls for people who going, hey, look, I'm on an F1 visa, or my visa is about to expire, or my EAD has been denied, or I'm still waiting on my EAD. What can I do? So these are issues that we see every day at the law firm. These are countless calls that come in every day. And also really another big issue is that there's frequently changing immigration policies. Just I think it was this week we saw a whole new list of countries. That we're going to have. The president is really effectively banning people from coming from immigrating from. So we have a lot of issues. Because of changing immigration policies. And that can always vary depending on the administration. But our current administration is making it very difficult for people to get through the system. And also to making sure that another big thing that we see in intake, is making sure that you fill out your forms correctly, making sure that you fill out every part of your form correctly, and that you disclose every single piece of information that it's asking for. Sometimes people get confused and they think that they don't need to disclose something. Forget to disclose something. That can be the difference. That can be, even though it's a small thing, it might not be even. You might not even be lying about anything that you would think is a big deal. You're not lying about committing a crime or anything like that. But what they'll see that as is a misrepresentation, right? So really making sure that you are filling out your paperwork very, very effectively. And a lot of times the best way to do that is to get the help of an attorney, a professional who can walk you through that, who can do that for you, who knows what, all the I's that need to be dotted and the T's that need to be crossed. So those are some of the big issues that we're seeing. What we can say, what they can do to kind of protect themselves is early planning, early planning. Making sure that you know what you want to do, way ahead of time, right? Know what kind of visa you want to apply for. Know how that process works. Call an attorney, get the help of legal counsel. Someone who can walk you through the process if you're confused, because it's confusing. It is very confusing. So making sure that you plan early and that you get the help you need is going to be priority. Then also to making sure that you maintain documentation, right?
Mhm.
Maintain your documentation. Keep all of your documents, have all those documents, and be ready to present those documents, or be ready to give those documents to anyone who helps you out. That's very, very important. Not having a document that you once had, can mean the difference between you getting this visa or this green card or whatever it is, whatever you may be applying for, and to know that I had this document, but I lost it or I threw it away, that can be, that it's extremely defeating, and that's also something that we see a lot in intake is people go, well, I had that, but I moved or I threw that away. I didn't think it was important. Believe me, everything is important when it comes to immigration, when it comes to your status in this country. Every single document is important. You need to make sure you have all that and make sure that you maintain status. It's very, very important. And again, I'll touch. I kind of touched on it before, but getting help from a professional, a legal professional. Go to a legal, go to a consult. See if there's an attorney that can help you out, and find the right attorney for you. But doing this with the help of an attorney will make your life much, much easier. They will make sure that the forms are filled out correct. They'll make sure that you have all the documents that you need. They'll make sure that nothing's missing that's not supposed to be, that is supposed to be there, right? So getting the help of a legal professional is very, very important. It's very important in cases like this. And it also helps you to, even if they can't help, if it's not, representation you need, they can help you get a second opinion on if you're thinking about, well, I'm considering doing this green card or this visa, but I'm not totally sure. Well, they can help walk you through that process, So making sure that you do that so that you don't do it wrong is very important, right? Because doing one thing wrong will hold you up and will delay. And that is the last thing you want. Then also too, knowing your rights, making sure that you know your rights. If you get into a removal situation, you can't be deported without a hearing. You're still afforded that in the United States. So making sure that you know your rights, according to your status in the United States, and that's also going to be very important. So those are the things that I would say, you really need to make sure that you do to protect yourself, in the current climate.
Thank you. Attorney Lal, many students want to work while studying or intern off campus. What are the legal ways they can do this under the F1 visa? And what are the risks if they don't follow the rules closely?
So I'll say what are the risks first. If they don't follow proper procedure, then they may be held liable working without authorization, which might put in danger their future US immigration plans. But legally, what options do they have? They normally have three kind of options. Number one, if you are on a student visa, you are allowed to work on campus 20 hours a week at max. Most students that use the work visa option is the OPT. Once your program is completed, you are given 1 year of employment authorization. It's called post completion OPT. If your program was in a STEM field, you will get 2 additional years. So essentially, if you are in a STEM field program, you'll get 3 years of employment authorization, kind of unrestricted. There is one thing that many people do not know or do not understand. Let's say if you are doing a bachelor's program and you do not have to do your OPT right after completing your bachelor's program. If you are doing any kind of bachelor's program in STEM field, later on you can do a graduate program, a master's degree, and eventually you can have 6 years of your OPT. So if anybody is in bachelor's program and strategically they want to plan that way, that is one option to have work authorization for almost 6 years. So this many people do not know. The third option is CPT, Curricular Practical Training Program. So what this program allows you to do is you can work at the same time you are currently pursuing your studies. Normally, practically, this works for people who are studied in the US for at least 1 year already, and they are transitioning or getting into a different program, but want to work at the same time because either their coursework requires or there are some other requirement. But these are the three options that the F1 students can avail: on-campus employment, OPT, CPT.
Thank you, Attorney Lal. Attorney Hanet, sometimes after graduating, students often feel pressured to transition to OPD or H1B. What strategies can help international graduates navigate through this period smoothly, especially if they don't win the H1B lottery?
So in order, what they need to do first and foremost is very early on find an employer, right? Find an employer, and really, if you want to set yourself up for success, find an employer who's cap exempt. Okay, that's going to be the best thing to do. Is go find an employer who's cap exempt. It might not be the easiest thing to do, but if you find one who's cap exempt, it's going to make it a lot easier for you to get an H-1B visa, as opposed to if you are applying with an employer who's not cap exempt. Then you're subject to the lottery. Then you're subject to a lot more delays. So what one of the things you can do is when you get here, very early on, start looking for employment, within your field, something that, that you want to do, and something that will help to make sure that you get a visa, and make sure that you talk to your employer about sponsoring you. Make sure that they sponsor people. That's going to be very, very important. And then what was the second part of your question? I apologize.
No worries. I was asking about if they don't win the H1B lottery, what can they do? Like if it's the OPD or the H1B, they have to quickly transition, right? So it's more like what strategies can help them navigate through that.
So if you don't get an H-1B, one of the first things I would do again is say, just the first thing I would do is call an attorney, go to an attorney. But even before that, set yourself up with with a backup. Get yourself ready, prepared. Really set yourself up for success. Like I was saying, with maybe file the chance to file an EB visa. One of those an EB1 or an EB2 visa.
Mhm.
Set yourself up for success though to do that. That means that you do something either that is what they say extraordinary ability, but you are being published, that you are working very hard at your particular craft or research, or that you are going to school, that you are getting all the proper certifications, and you're doing everything you need, you need to have success through that route. So one that would be the other way, is to make sure that you have a good backup, whether it's an EB visa, or some other visa. Make sure that you have a good backup.
All right, thank you. To our amazing audience, thank you for joining us. Whether you're tuning in from Facebook, YouTube, or LinkedIn, we're thrilled to have you here today. We are immigrationquestion.com, a two-in-one platform built with lead and case management to help simplify the immigration process. You can ask your immigration questions for free in any language and get connected with a verified attorney for guidance. You may also receive a free confidential initial consultation. Just visit www.immigrationquestion.com and sign up today. Now, I know Attorney Lal has had this question many times, so this will be your first Attorney Hanet. I wanted to ask you, as a platform that connects documented and undocumented immigrants with trusted attorneys like yourself, what are your thoughts on how immigrationquestion.com supports the immigrant community today?
Oh, it's fantastic. It is absolutely fantastic. It's a great way for people especially who are new to the country, to help them connect with an attorney. It's not easy to understand any place that's new, right? You go somewhere, you're just trying to figure out, how to get housing, how to get rent, all that. So calling, a service like IMQ, is fantastic. They're here to make sure that you get the help that you need, and not just any attorney. It's not the same as calling a law office or calling a lawyer. You are getting catered to. A particular attorney that it really is there to to help you with your particular issue, is going to help you out. And whether it's just answering a question or figuring out whether you need further legal service, we're here to help. And it's really, I mean, for someone who's new here and doesn't have a lot of resources, and maybe is relying on some family if they have them here, but even a lot of times who don't, calling a service like IMQ is very important. We're here to help. That's really what it is. We're here to help.
Thank you so much. So IMQ has also launched this attorney and user app as well. So to our audience, if you have any questions that you want to ask, you can log into our app as well, register there, and you can ask your questions as well. Now we've jumped into the Q&A, and we have a lot of questions lined up. So the first question that's come up is, my friends are asking me to join protests on my college campus. Is it safe to engage in this? Worried about my student visa. I think Attorney Lal, you can go first, and if Attorney Hanet, you want to add anything, you can go ahead.
I mean, I understand there's a First Amendment issue and all that, but given what's been going on in the country, if you want to join such kind of protest and you are on F1 student visa, think twice before joining such kind of protest. That's my practical advice to anyone who is on F1 student visa.
All right, Attorney Hanet, any other thoughts you want to add?
I would echo that. Yeah, obviously, in the United States there is freedom of speech. It's a very big part of the foundation of this country. But, um, you know, but be smart, be intelligent about when to exercise that under the current climate. Not to say that you can't feel the way you feel. Of course, you're welcome to that, but know that there's a lot more scrutiny, and that that can really affect your status. So and anything that puts your status at risk is something that you want to avoid doing.
Definitely. I think the next question is okay, that this person is facing anxiety about appointment availability. I think Attorney Hanet, you can go ahead. What could they do to sort of ease their anxiety?
Well, the best thing they could do is prepare. Is prepare and make sure that they have all their documentation all filled out correctly, and that they have all the documents that they need to supply ready to be supplied and turned in with their applications. That's the best way to make sure that you get an appointment, and you get an appointment on time. There is a lot of delays. Things are taking a long time. But if you do what you're supposed to do and you do it correctly, that can really, really speed up the process. That can make sure that, or even make sure that you get the appointment, right? Because one wrong thing on a form, can be, like I said, construed as a misrepresentation, and that's the last thing that you want, because that could mean the appointment goes bad, or there's no appointment at all, and it could be very, very many delays, or very long delays in getting the appointment.
Definitely. Thank you. Just in case you want to dial in your questions, you can dial 516-703-3483 if you want to ask some more questions. I think there are some more questions as well. Dov Sharma is asking, will this potential delay impact my academic start dates? I think Attorney Lal, you can take this up.
So since we know there is a pause on issuing new student visa interviews, meaning if you were to attend, let's say, summer program in the US and you were considering apply F1 visa, as per Department of State, there will be no new F1 visa appointment available. Until what time? Nobody knows. So it's highly likely that you will have to reschedule, rethink about your start date, because at this time you are not likely to get the student visa soon. How soon? Nobody knows. As we hear an update on this issue, we will convey to our clients, to our viewers through various platforms, but stay tuned and plan accordingly.
All right. I think we have another question. My friend's visa got denied because of lack of ties to the home country. What does this really mean, and how can I avoid it? Attorney Hanet, you can take this one up.
So if her visa got denied for lack of ties to her home country,
Yes.
that what that means is that they felt that, based on maybe her interview or her application, that that her intent was to stay in the United States longer than the visa was, right? That's what they're saying. They're trying to, when they say that they want to see ties to your home country, they want to see if you're applying for a B1 B2 visa, or if you're applying for a student visa, that you have ties to your home country, because you don't intend on committing what they would call immigration fraud, right? By presenting that you want to come to the country under one visa, but really have the intention of staying beyond that, or otherwise. So that's what that means. How you can avoid it is by making sure, again, that you fill out everything correctly, and that you don't go in there and hesitate. That you answer your questions clearly, and that you answer them in a way that shows that you want to be there for the purpose that you're going, for the purpose that you're applying, right? So that's what I would say.
Definitely. All right. Next question is, and this is for Attorney Lal. My uncle is sponsoring me, but his account only had a lump sum deposited last month. Will that be a red flag?
Yes, so if you are applying, let's say, for a student visa, and one of your relative is sponsoring you, then you have to submit their financial documents such as bank statement. And if the bank statement does not show sufficient funds, it is going to be a red flag. That may be a reason for a visa denial. So what you can do is either change the sponsor someone else can sponsor you, and you can provide their financial documents. And if no option is available, then this particular sponsor can probably update their financial, and then you schedule for your appointment.
Okay, thank you. Next question is for Attorney Hanet. Can my wife and children come with me when I move to the U.S. on a student visa?
So normally they can, and attorney law, you correct me if I'm wrong, but normally you can, as long as you file the correct visa paperwork for them.
Yes. So
That's
the procedure normally is when you get your student visa, the school will issue you what is called F1 I-20. And if you want to bring your spouse and children, you will make the request to the school. The school would issue what is called F2 I-20s for the spouse and child. And then you will apply with that I-20 for a F2 visa at the US consulate. Once they get the visa, they can come.
Okay, thank you both. Next question is it better for my kids to come with me on B2 visas or wait until I settle before applying for an F2 for them? I think Attorney Lal, you can answer this question.
So I always advise people to apply for an appropriate or right visa. If your intention is to bring them eventually on a F2 visa, then don't even apply for a B1, B2 visa. Straight away get the right F2 I-20s and have them apply for a F2 visa instead of applying for a B2 visa. It wouldn't be a good strategy to bring them here on B2 visa and then change their status. Here, when from the very beginning your intention was to have them here on F2 visa. So it's better straight away apply for F2 visa.
Okay. I think the next one is going to be our last question from the audience, which is the officer said, I don't have strong ties. I'm not married and don't have a job. What can I use to prove ties instead? So Attorney Hanet, you can go ahead.
Well, the main thing, he says she's not married, she doesn't have a job. So proving strong ties to your home country is by showing that you have family there, by showing that you're established there, right? It might not be by having a job, but showing that you've maintained a residence there, that you have family and friends there. And Mr. Law, Attorney Law, you can correct me if I'm wrong or add anything. But I believe just by showing that you are present in the country, that you maintain residence there, that you have family there. These are ways that you can show that you have strong ties to the country.
Yeah, absolutely correct. So if you own any real estate, if you do not have a job, then maybe your family have jobs or real estate. So you can show that you have a strong family ties. The family has real estate property or have jobs, and you do have intent to come back to your home country once you are done with your either U.S. studies or U.S. visits. That's how you can show that you have strong ties.
All right, thank you. I think we have one more question. Yes, this is the last question. I was denied a U.S. student visa last year. Is it okay to reapply to a different school? Attorney Hanet or Attorney Lal, whoever wants
So
to.
it happens in so many cases when you apply either for F1 or B1, B2 visa. It gets denied for a variety of reasons. It doesn't mean you cannot reapply. Just get admission to a good school, try to apply again, and if you are able to prove strong ties with your home country and your intention to come back after your studies are finished, the chances are you will get your visa again.
Okay, thank you. I actually had another question that we've been receiving a lot, which is a lot of students at this moment are facing a lot of anxiety. And as the both of you mentioned, paperwork goes haywire and stuff like that. How do students stay at ease? And is it best from the beginning to contact an attorney, or should they wait, first get their paperwork done and then contact an attorney? I think Attorney Lal or Attorney Hanet, whoever wants to go first for that one.
So in my practice, I noticed so many times when these people applying for F1 visa, their form DS-160 is not properly completed. or if they appear for an interview, they're not well prepared, they give wrong answer, get the denials. So my suggestion is, if you are considering apply for F1 visa, retain an immigration attorney from the very beginning. A professional and immigration attorney can guide you thoroughly about do's and don'ts or of applying for an F1 visa.
Okay, and Attorney Hanet, would you like to add anything to that? Like anything that would help these students who are watching, like feel at ease? Should they?
That's
Yeah, go.
I would just I would echo that again. I would just like Attorney Law said, make sure that in order to make sure that you're doing stuff correctly, it's best to get the help of an immigration attorney early on. I see this every day doing intake at the firm, and we get countless calls of people who've already applied, who've been denied, and now would like the help of an attorney. And again, don't have if you get denied, you can reapply, and it doesn't mean that you won't get a visa, if you reapply, right? But making sure, that you do it correctly the first time, will mean that you don't have to go through that anxiety. And to get rid of that anxiety, the best thing that you can do, like Attorney Law said, is to get the help of a professional. An immigration attorney is there to walk you through this and to make sure that you have success in getting to this country and make sure that you get to this country, and are able to stay here.
All right. Thank you both. That was an excellent way to end this session. I think Ashutosh really wanted to say thank you for answering his query. So he's just giving a shout out. Shout out to Ashutosh. Your query has been heard. I'm really glad we were able to help you. And that is actually a good way to end this session. Thank you so much to the both of you. And a special thank you to all of these audience. I hope we were able to put your mind at ease. So thank you, Attorney Lal and Attorney Hanet, for joining this
Thanks
session
for
and
having
giving
me.
your insight.
Thank you.
We hope this webinar answered your questions. Remember, at immigrationquestion.com, you can ask your immigration questions for free and get connected with a licensed attorney in good standing who can help you better understand your options. You may also qualify for a free confidential initial consultation. Visit our site or download our app to get your questions answered. Don't forget to rewatch this session or listen to previous episodes on Spotify. Just search for Borderless Talk by immigrationquestion.com. Join us again on Wednesday for another special edition regarding another burning immigration topic. You won't want to miss it. Thank you again, Attorney Lal and Attorney Hanet, for this special session. I hope it really helped. And thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank y'all.
Have a nice day.